Hello everyone, today I'm super excited to be able to share with you my recent acquisition, which is the 1/6 scale Dragon in Dreams Roger Moore figure. Now at first glance you could be forgiven for assuming that Dragon in Dreams had acquired the 007 license and we're starting a whole new line of 1/6 scales based on James Bond and those fantastic films. But that is not the case. This is actually officially licensed from the estate of Roger Moore, and it is very much a one-off collectible. There will be no other pieces in this line. There won't be any other alternative sculpts or costumes or different personas that he's played across his varied career. This is a completely unique figure. And so this figure essentially has to represent the best of Roger Moore, and wisely they've chosen to go with a Roger Moore at the very height of his powers around about 1973 with the release of Live and Let Die. And clearly the photography by Terry O'Neill that is so iconic and so closely linked to Live and Let Die has been chosen as the basis or the inspiration for this costume, the packaging and the overall look and aesthetic of this figure. So let's start off by talking about this packaging. First of all, this is a very broad box, much broader than I'm used to having with my 1/6 collectibles. This is a nice luxurious packaging, as I said, very square shaped and very broad, which is fantastic, and most of it is text free, and I have to say it looks absolutely fantastic. This is a solid hard case as well. This feels very sturdy, very strong and like real quality. And of course the image they've chosen here is that image that we just seen there from Terry O'Neill. I think this looks absolutely fantastic. This is taken, of course, from the publicity stills from Live and Let Die. It's an iconic image and it looks fantastic. Both the name of Roger Moore and his signature, which is a really nice touch, is metallic and it catches the light beautifully. On the side panels we have this fantastic image of the figure in two different costumes. Of course he comes with two costumes. He has this suit look here, or the more famous look from Live and Let Die, of course, towards the end of the film, and you can display this either side depending on how you want it to look if you put it on the shelf. The reverse of the packaging is again largely text-free, which is fantastic. It's a wonderful image here, actually, of the action figure itself. But again, we've kept the consistent branding, I suppose, of that shattered glass, which looks brilliant. And in this case, they've very carefully done it so it looks like he's actually shot the glass. And of course, he's in his suit here. This looks absolutely fantastic. I think this is absolutely brilliant and it's very, very displayable and very presentable. Now the hard outer case is actually held in place by magnets, which is really cool, so you can just lift these folds up to flip the outer covering around, and you can see here that on the inside again we have that shattered glass, which is really cool because this could have just been a blank space, but I like that they've actually bothered to make this more visually interesting. Of course, we then have this foam covering to protect the figure. If we take this away, we can see that underneath we have another card covering, which again displays the figure and all of his various accessories here. If we lift that off, underneath we finally see the action figure itself. This is really nicely laid out. There's plenty of space here, and this foam is really strong and secure and holds everything in place and makes it look very presentable. Now you will notice there's this thick card covering here. If we lift that up again, we have that fantastic photography from Terry O'Neill. You can see it's embossed, so it catches the light very nicely there, and this is just a really nice display piece in its own right. If we flip that over, we can see the signatures there of Terry O'Neill and Roger Moore. So this is a cool little extra that was unexpected and isn't actually listed in the packaging details, I don't think. So there's a protective layer underneath that, and of course we can see the stand hidden there. Now this is only one layer though. If we pull this outer layer forwards and look behind the figure, we can see there's a second layer within this box which actually shows the other accessories, which is a spare suit for a completely different look. Now, I'm a huge Roger Moore fan. I've come to really appreciate this actor more and more as I've got older, and I had huge anticipation and expectations for this figure. And wow, they didn't disappoint. This figure is phenomenal. And let's start off by looking at that all-important head sculpt. I hope you'll agree that this is a incredible likeness of Roger Moore. I have to say I think this is the best single likeness I've ever seen, and we've had a few different Roger sculpts across the years from different companies, and for me this has to be the absolute top dog. If we just compare this sculpt against that image there, this is so uncannily good. And it's not just the sculpt, of course, it's the paint apps as well. There's so much detail here. They've got the flesh tone just perfect. There's even individual little bits of detail detail there, but we can just slightly see some stubble coming through, the golden tones in the hair, the blue of the eyes. Everything about this is just pitch perfect. Last year, Big Chief Studios released their own Roger Moore Live and Let Die action figure as part of their Bond lineup, which has been a pretty fantastic line so far. But I have to say, even this head sculpt pales in comparison to this one from Dragon in Dreams. I just think this is so accurate, it's uncanny. And for anyone who's curious, here is the offering from Sideshow Collectibles all those years ago in the early 2000s. It is another Live and Let Die figure. At the time, I actually thought this was a pretty fantastic sculpt anyway. I always really liked their Roger Moore sculpts for the various Bond figures, but as we can see, obviously, there is no comparison here. The tailoring and the costuming is also really nicely done. Now, to be fair, it might be that Big Chief Studios has the edge here in terms of some of the detail, but one of the things I really liked about the Dragon in Dreams version is that it has this soft rubber body underneath that when you touch it gives it that sort of fleshy feel as if this is padded, and it works really, really well for the texturing of this figure. His frame looks really accurate and in proportion, and it looks pretty nicely done. So some little details here, if we look at the belt, for example, the buckle there, this looks really nice. And of course his gun holster, I really like this. This is made of leather. There's all these individual straps and buckles which are all perfectly functioning. If we slip that open, for example, we can slide out his magnum here, and this looks absolutely stunning. And of course this fits very neatly under his arm and is perfectly in proportion to that pouch, so it just looks really neat. I really love the overall attention to detail on this figure. If we lift up his trouser leg, we can see that these shoes, very nicely sculpted and very shiny as they should be, also have working laces. I love this extra detail. This is exactly the kind of thing I would expect from a high-end 1/6 collectible, and they've absolutely nailed it here. So I love this, and I love that they've gone the extra mile for this. Likewise, underneath the shoe we can actually see the different tones of the sole of the feet and the actual individual trim there. I think this looks absolutely brilliant, and they've obviously not missed any details when it comes to this figure, which is fantastic. He also, of course, has functioning pockets. Anyone who's seen my other 1/6 videos knows I like to have functioning pockets, so yes, he ticks that box as well. And then, if we look at the sculpt of the hands, he comes with a number of different hands. He only actually has 2 pairs of hands, but they're very nicely done. We can see, obviously, lots of details in his hands. They're quite firm, the fingers are individual and unique, and they're flexible enough that they can be manipulated. This hand, for example, here with the trigger finger, I had to pull that out to get it to go around the magnum, which we'll look at a little bit later to make sure that that finger rests on the trigger finger. I was a little bit nervous about this, but it was firm enough and robust enough to be able to take that without any fear of it actually snapping or tearing off. So this has got great flexibility, but great firmness as well that you can be confident in. Moving on to the articulation, well, he does have a ball joint in his neck, meaning he can spin his head all the way around. Of course, he can lean it left and right as well, and of course it will move forwards and backwards a pretty healthy distance all in all, so this is fantastic to see. Likewise, there are ball joints in the shoulders, so those arms will lift all the way up and out, which is great. Of course, I'm being very careful with mine because I don't want to be snapping any joints, although this, to be fair, is a very strong and robust figure, so I have no worries that anything like that is going to happen. This looks really, really nice. So there is a complementary bicep swivel as well, so that will rotate all the way around. There's double joints at the elbow, meaning that hand can get all the way back to his head, which is brilliant. There's another ball joint in the wrist, of course, so it will rotate all the way around, and it will also hinge forwards and backwards as well. Now, there is a ball joint in the waist that will allow the figure to move from side to side, and of course lean left, right, and bend forwards and backwards. Not a huge range of motion here, but enough to be able to get him into any position that you're going to want him in. Now, he's got another ball joint at the hips there, so that leg will kick out to the side, they'll kick forwards and backwards. And then there is another double joint at the knee that will allow that lower leg to kick all the way back, as you would hope. And then finally, there is another ball joint at the ankle there that will allow that foot to move from side to side, but also hinge forwards and backwards. And as you would hope, he also comes with a number of extra goodies as well, including an extra pair of hands, a handgun and clip, and his magnum. Plus, and I think this is a really cool touch, 6 individual bullets. And let's not forget, he also comes with an extra outfit as well. Of course, he also comes with a stand. Now, I have to be honest, I'm a little bit disappointed by this stand. This is definitely something, say, Big Thief Studios does a little bit better. This is very generic. It is just the Dragon in Dreams logo. It's a circular metal stand, which is quite nice. It is nice and sturdy, but there's nothing particularly exciting about this, and I think that that big logo there really distracts from this figure, and it would have been much better if it just had a sort of, well, either it been blank, if it lit up in some way, or if it had an image of Roger Moore or something like that. That would have made it a lot more attractive. This is a little bit distracting. I'm not a huge fan of it in truth, but I do have to give them top marks on the weapons, especially this Magnum. I think it's beautifully sculpted. It's really nicely done. It is made of a solid metal. It has a working hammer here, which is really cool. It actually feels quite weighty in my hand, and I love that the barrel actually flips out and it actually rotates around. What's more, it goes one step further because of course we can take those individual bullets and we can actually put them into each chamber, which is amazing. So you can actually snap the bullets into place. I think this is an incredible amount of detail and really, really cool. Now, if you're willing to persevere, you can get some pretty cool poses out of this figure with the use of this prop. It looks fantastic, but I do have to caution you that it takes a little bit of effort and work, though, to get it fully into his grip. As I said, that hand, when you first open it, is actually quite tight. That finger is quite tight, and you have to pry that open over time to get it to slip through onto the trigger there. But when you do, it is well worth it because I think it looks absolutely stunning. Likewise, if we look at the handgun, this is another solid metal piece, nice and weighty, really well sculpted and nicely painted as well. Lots of little details here, which is fantastic. Working hammer, you can pull back the chamber there, we can see the bullets inside. This is all really cool stuff, and maybe not unique to this figure. Of course, we used to see this back in the day with Sideshow, but these are all metal pieces, and as I said, they just look fantastic. So I really love the effort and detail that's gone into these accessories. I think they are pretty phenomenal all in all. And again, they create really fun individual looks depending on what you want to do with them. Now, of course, he does come with that alternate outfit as well. Now, I haven't actually experimented with that yet because it does involve me having to pull the head off the figure, and I don't really want to do that. I'm always a little bit squeamish about pulling off heads because I'm always terrified it's going to snap the joints. So I haven't kind of built up the courage to do that just yet. So I'm sticking with this outfit, which is actually my preferred option, is the Live and Let Die costume. But yeah, you do have that alternate costume as well, which is a really nice extra to have. Now, for anyone who's curious how these accessories stack up against the accessories from the Big Chief Collectibles figure, I happen to have got my hands on them. So let's take a look. That version had the Magnum, although you'll notice the colouring is different. This is silver rather than black. It's also made of plastic. And whilst it does have the working hammer, it doesn't have the working barrel or chamber. Big Chief also had the machete. This is made of metal and is a very nice piece, actually. They also included a snake, bug detector, incendiary bomb, and CO2 canister. Plus, I think that version also came with the wristwatch as well. Now, if these accessories look familiar, well, that's because they pretty much carbon copied from the Sideshow Collectibles version from all those years ago. But these are some nice accessories that, of course, are very specific to Live and Let Die, and some of these would have been welcome. So if you're lucky enough to be able to get your hands on these and pick up a set, then these make a really nice addition to this Dragon in Dreams version. And once again, he has no problems holding these props. In particular, this machete I think is a considerable improvement over the original Sideshow Collectibles version, which he couldn't really hold his machete. This works very, very nicely now. So then, in terms of a wrap up, I started the video by saying I was a huge Roger Moore fan and I had high hopes for this figure, and I am not disappointed. I honestly believe that this is the greatest 1/6 Roger Moore figure ever produced. I think this likeness is absolutely uncanny. It is tremendous. It's, for my money, the best likeness on the market that's been produced so far. I really love the presentation of the casing and his various accessories. I love the attention to detail in the costume. I love pretty much everything about this. If I was going to be critical, I'd say, well, it would have been nice to have a few extra hands, maybe. Some of those other accessories would have been quite fun, but honestly, I think what you get just in this packaging is more than enough. And that's before we even look at the suit costume, the alternate costume, which I haven't really looked at here, apologies. But I do think that is a really cool bonus as well and must be factored in to this overall package, which is pretty tremendous. But I think if you're able to customize yours and replace the stand hand and bring in some extra accessories, then you're going to have a whale of a time with this figure, because I think it's so displayable and it's just wonderful. I actually think it's one of my favourites in my entire collection. I love this figure to bits. I think they've done a tremendous job and I can't say enough good things about it. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like and remember to subscribe, as there'll be plenty more videos soon.